Hey everyone, thank you so much for joining the Behind Company Lines podcast. Today we have Yogev Shifman, co-founder of Exodigo, a successful AI company that aims to solve the underground challenge, providing underground risk management services. Yogev, I'm so excited to chat with you and learn more deep about your experience as a founder and kind of where you got to Exodigo and really this whole kind of AI revolution, how you're utilizing the technology to take on some different challenges that we might not all be aware of. And so I'm excited to get into the weeds of what that means in terms of what your problem set that Exodigo's tackling and how you're able to improve that and help companies to do the same. So before we get into all that, what were you doing before you started the company?
Actually, a bit before I started the company, I was in the Israeli army. Myself and the other co-founders
Yeah.
had a long career in the Israeli army. All of us
Yeah.
are majors in the army and work for the intelligence corps on different kind of projects and technologies, a lot of innovation. And I think that's what sparked like the want to create something new and to
Yeah.
solve a real world problem.
Yeah. Describe some of the innovation that comes out of the army and really the initiatives without getting into too much detail if you're able to share. But, I think we underestimate the innovation that does come from more government kind of resources and having a really successful team of professionals around it. And so, yeah, describe a little bit about the innovation that was exciting that you saw
Yeah.
during your time there.
I think what allows innovation, especially in the army, is the freedom to fail. It's not a monetized world. You can fail a lot. You only need to succeed once. And that's allow you to try again and again to solve very hard problems. And and also they give responsibility to very young people. So the combination of those two, along with national security, gives you a lot of room for innovation that I think that's the hard part in like commercial companies that they can't take the risk because everything is resources and money. And the army allows you to develop the skill of taking risks with high gain and high rewards, but also very risky areas. And we tried to take that approach when solving a new problem and starting a startup because it's basically the same, only you need to play with money, with real
Yeah.
world resources. That becomes a bit more difficult to play with. But if you already have inside of you the know-how of how to take those approaches, what risks to take, what risks not to take, you can develop real innovation.
And what experience kind of led you going to the army, you met your co-founders there, all of you are working for a cause, building software, innovating. And then what made you shift into working within kind of the construction and development and that technology space? Was there something in particular that catalyzed the want and need and the focus to go into something in that
Yeah.
in that domain?
I think the basic of it was we ideate for a few months, a few good months. We actually sat in a garage, a startup garage with an actual car next to us. Is we tried to solve and find a real world problem. We wanted to solve some brick and mortar problem, something real, something that you can touch, something that you can explain to everybody very simply. What is the problem? What is the solution?
Yeah.
The solution itself is complicated. The market is complicated, but the
Sure.
problem is very easy to understand. Eventually, it came up to two ideas, one in not specifically construction, but any underground risk you can take underground.
Mhm.
And we went through the same aspects in medicine, like
Yeah.
looking under the human body. So it was the ground or the human body, and we chose the ground just because we wanted to fill the market faster.
Sure.
In the medical world, it takes a lot of time.
Yeah, yeah. And what in particular was it sounds like you were kind of uncovering two different problems, but using similar type of approaches in terms of the technology or the focus of that approach. And so describe a little bit more about what Exodigo does in terms of the solution it's giving to a lot of these industries. Because I was looking through it and I thought it was extremely cool, but I'd love to hear from your perspective on what you're doing and what the technology allows, I guess, companies to essentially unearth, for lack of a better word.
Yeah, no, it's a perfect world because basically what we do is like taking like an MRI, a CT, and ultrasound, and just aiming for the ground, and then use AI to interpret everything because it's too much data.
Yeah.
What we do is we take very sensitive sensors, combine them together with high accuracy GPS, then cover the entire graph, and it allows us to create a very accurate, high resolution image of what's happening on the ground. For different use cases, it depends on what you want to find underground, because not everyone wants the same, but it allows you to get an image of what you need underground, and the AI actually helps to pop out what is interesting.
Yeah. And what were people relying on beforehand without the sensors, without the sophisticated AI to really not only label the data, I'm sure, but also interpret it and kind of build it into certain models so you can actually start accurately seeing, what is under there? What were they using before?
The most common way will be just pen and paper maps that says, okay, there's a power line here somewhere, but there are some more evolved methods to do it, but no concrete technology that actually try to give them an answer. You rely a lot of what is called in the industry as built or as made. That's basically a documentation of whatever change they did in a certain area, but it's not a living document. Like, it has a lot of problems. It's inaccurate in its basic, because documenting is like the most boring task, let's say, that nobody want to do at the end of the project.
Yeah.
So some companies try to solve that, but you can call it as maybes.
Sure.
And then you can't really rely on it. You need the as is. You need to understand what is really there, not just as a document. The document is good. It gives you a lot of metadata about what's going on, which electricity company is in charge of the area, but it doesn't let you know what you don't know that is there. And that's what we're trying to cover, and give you tools and services that allows you to get more data of what's actually underground.
And what was the incumbent before? Was it just they didn't have the sensors, they didn't have the data, or they were relying so much on these, or I guess they were working with the reliability of that these pieces of documentation would be accurate, but ultimately finding that they're not. What was the incumbent technology beforehand? I know you said pen and paper, but any sensors, anything like that?
I think they have some sensors that allows you can see people walk around with rigid sticks, which are electric sensor that they can walk around the street and paint where is the power line. And they have what they call a GPR, which is a ground penetrating radar that allows you to see some object underground.
Yeah.
But those kind of tools and sensors didn't evolve like other industries. What we did, like allowing you to use cloud computing to analyze those kind of methods, allows you to take an expert with GPR with 10 years experience and replace him with maybe taking even the same person, but allowing him to cover acres and acres of data.
Yeah.
Because the automation allows you greater scale of data and better accuracy. Our sensors can cover every inch of the ground, basically. So you get a high resolution image, like looking at a 4K image instead of a HD image. And that allows the big turnover. Instead of, I call it, when they come with the existing tools, they come to an area and they can cover, and they have some method, and they can connect to cables, and they can open the manhole. It's like a crime scene. They're trying to understand what's going on. Where is the pipe? I can see a manhole. What is it?
Right.
What we do is like mowing your lawn. It's not like solving a crime scene. You just cover the entire area and you get the results. That's a disruption in the way they get the information, and in the way they can rely on the quality of that information.
And describe some of the outcome. Obviously, I would love to learn some of the, maybe I don't know if you have any stories of instances where, if you don't have accuracy on that data, you start to, say, begin a build. If you're not able to really understand what's underneath you, what are some negative possibilities that you've maybe encountered or have heard of anecdotally? And then what does that insight obviously kind of mean in terms of the speed at which you can start all the progress of the project and start to actually build? So I know two questions wrapped into one there, but we'd love to hear your feedback on both.
Yeah. So speed is the right question, because in speed, I'm taking it as performance. When you think about underground risk, you immediately think, okay, someone will blow up a pipe, a gas pipe or a power line, sorry. And that's a very risky thing that can happen. But even if you didn't hit the power line or didn't hit the gas line, it's enough that you didn't know it was there. So a project will just stop. think of hundreds and hundreds of people building a metro line somewhere. They will just stop because there's a line. Nobody know who it is, who it belongs to. They will need to go to the municipality and ask them, whose line is it?
Sure.
And they will stop, even for a few days. Those few days can cost hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars, depends on the project. And that can cause a snowball effect that can delay the entire project.
And
Because
what-
a construction project is a very methodic project, and
Right.
it relies on the different steps to happen and happen successfully.
Yeah. And what was, if there's some kind of centralized database, where is that? And if I'm a power company learning to put down a line, I need to make record of it, or I'm a commercial development company, I'm building and I've added some extra layers underneath in terms of the nearing parts that actually connect with power systems and things like that. How do you go to find that information initially versus what are you able to in terms of not having to go through that and just seeing what is? How does that change the paradigm of building?
That's also a good question because there isn't one. There isn't a central database. It's more than that. Nobody want to take the liability, so they don't like to share information too much with one another.
Yeah.
Some of them needs to, because of regulation, to give some information, but they don't collaborate well. They try to, and I think there's a big improvement in the way they collaborate. But still, when some project needs to collect all the different documents,
Yeah.
and I build an updated picture of all the document they have. It's not even I don't say the real data, it's just the documentation they have. It can take even a few months. And that's because nobody answers the phone or whatever. There's a lot of reasons, but or they don't have the data, or it's pen and paper and they need to digitalize it. They don't always know the reasons, but during those months, you can already get the as is information and start design up based on it.
Yeah.
So even if the regulation needs you to get all the information in place, just to let everybody know and take the different risk mitigation methods, you can start doing something. You can save a lot of time and potentially even lose the entire process, but that depends on if the process is able to evolve in such manner.
It's amazing to think about how much having the ability to have insights can affect so many different aspects of the project, not just money, not just speed, but also how you build and the efficiency of whatever you're building to actually, whether it's correspond with the structure or even just other systems, how much better that overall construction can be. I'm excited to learn a little bit more. And if you don't mind sharing with the audience, tell us a little bit about the traction you've had thus far. How many people are using the technology? What's been exciting about the traction that you've seen so far? And what's particularly exciting about the next stage of Exodigo and where you're aiming to go?
I think the most exciting thing is, as I said before, because we chose a real problem, get the interest of everybody. You can see clients want to hear what we have to say. They want to see people trying to solve this problem. And that's causing a lot of good traction. I can go into detailed numbers, but it allows us to get foot in the door in most places and allow us to keep the right velocity as a company to move fast enough between the different clients and get them fast enough and get them curious about what we do fast enough, because it's a real pain they have and they give us a chance to solve it. And then we need to bring in the results, and we do. And that's what delivering the results. That's the main target we do, delivering the most accurate results we can and in time. And I think our main goal is to improve more and more the scale of the services we provide and to more and more clients. That's our main goal at the moment.
Yeah, it's so awesome to think about the ability that your technology has to just even test it out, because the problem set is so strong with a lot of these companies, and making those inaccurate, say, estimations or decisions can mean so much to just the length of time and all the outcomes you mentioned earlier. I'm curious in terms of the AI portion and the complexity of the data, how much is there to be interpreted and how much better is the kind of the models in terms of how you're training them get from project to project? Does it accumulate? Does the product in terms of its accumulated knowledge become better over time and has many more projects and just kind of learning in that way?
Obviously, yes, because it's an AI based, it's always learn. And that's one of the advantages we bring with our technology is that you can learn from each side
Yeah.
and you gain more knowledge and more data and not relearning every time again and again, or depending on if one person was sick or something on his expertise. It allows us to evolve the models every time more and more and allow us to find more subtleties between the different anomalies.
Yeah.
Like if now you are able to find between different type of utilities, we are now able to find different types of soils, different types of inside a utility go into different types of that utility because there are different manners for every utility. So, and the different shapes of the utilities. So every part of any project teaches a lot about what we can do next. And it also a test bed for anything new we want to do. We have all the data and we can just reuse it. It's proprietary data that we use, and that basically helps us move along from project to project and evolve from project to project.
And have you had any interest in, say, local governments or kind of cities that want to know more about what's being built underneath for kind of more abstract planning in terms of where they want to invest in terms of resources? Is that something that you're dealing with now, or is that kind of on the horizon in terms of expectations, in terms of possibilities?
That, of course, those are the interesting prospects, but more down the line, because you need to see the immediate value with the engineering companies and the local government and DOTs and basically the owners of those projects are the people with the most motivation to solve this issue, and they get the most of the value out of it. It's actually interesting that the earliest you begin to use us, the more value you'll get in the project because you're taking less risk. We had one project when they brought us in the feasibility stage, when they actually choose where to go with the project. And then we scanned the line they wanted to go through, and it was busy with a lot of utilities. And we scanned the other area, it was clear. So it allows them to move the entire project to the other side, but before the project started. If they would have done it a phase later, it would have cost them billions of dollars to move it.
Yeah. And thinking whether external or internal, shifting gears here, what's some of the biggest risks that you think Exodigo faces today?
A risk of what nature?
As a company, in terms of whether it's external macroeconomic climate or in terms of internal kind of mechanisms of scaling, what do you feel is kind of the riskier part of the or the parts that keep you up?
I think when we started the company, it was in better time of the high-tech economical system, but our clients are not that affected. They're a bit affected because there's a lot of macroeconomics that changes, but they are less affected by those micro changes because the project can be a 20-year project, a 10-year project. They are less sensitive to those. But a lot of them are government, and it's very hard processes. Our biggest challenge is the status quo. Is understanding. I think it's the challenge of every company. It's not the competition. There's enough for everyone. The problem is the status quo. Is getting people and clients that are used to what they do. They used to manage the risk that exists. Even though they know they can't manage it, they know how to not manage it. They know how to do it. Nobody will get fired for doing the wrong thing. But if you look at the bigger picture, and that's what they're started to do, because they need to be more effective, they need to cover more projects, they need to do the project with less budgets and less resources. They understand they need to improve. They need some change. They need some disruption in that area. That's what allows us to change the status quo, but it's a very hard task to move the status quo.
Yeah. If everything goes well, what's the long-term vision for Exodigo?
The long-term is that everybody could use that service as they like, and for us to provide them with the analysis, like basically be the the one source for true analysis of what's happening on the ground.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. The delivery, it's not, I can't elaborate, and it's not settled yet, but understanding how it can reach every project that needs it around the world.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. And I love this next section is where I call it my founder FAQ. So I'm going to ask you some rapid fire questions and then we'll see where we go. First thing is I always like to open it up. What's particularly hard about your job?
Particularly hard about my job is understanding the values that really resonate with the clients,
Yeah.
but knowing the limitation of the technology
Yeah.
and also the future limitation, not only the existing ones, that we're imagining what's going to limit us and what are the glass ceilings we can break
Yeah.
and what of those we can. And we
Right.
need to choose the right path and understanding what will really resonate with the clients. And that's, I think, the hardest part for me, because we chose difficult technology, but also a difficult clients and
Yeah.
market to work in. So you need to have them both, and it's actually a bridge between the two. And I think that's the biggest challenge.
Yeah. And you talk about future limitations. I'm curious, being that the technology, it only seems like it can get better and better and better. What do you see as the future limitations? Is it more technological? Is it more based on regulations? Is it on businesses and their outcomes? What have you seen to be or predicted that would be your limitations as you grow?
Even though the technology is very difficult, we have a lot of very smart people, and I believe we will solve the technological problems. I think the real issue will be navigating throughout the different markets and use cases and regulations, because they are used to and build upon the status quo.
Yeah.
You have regulation that compels you to get certain things that in a certain way, just to minimize the risk. And we offer a new way. We can do it the same way you used to do it and cover it, but it's basically things you can get rid of eventually. Not get rid of the existing method, but
Sure.
getting rid of the inefficiencies that exist in those areas.
Yeah. Yeah. Thinking about as a founder yourself, what's something that you're particularly good at now that you wish you were better at early on in your career?
I think dealing with the US market and the internal politics and the rhythm that things are going on here, I think you need to know when you get into a deal and you get into a new client that it will take time, even if you have the perfect solution, and you need to navigate it the right way and
Hmm.
understand where you can move faster and when you need to wait. And that things you need to master better,
Yeah.
and you do it as the company moves on, and the earliest you can, it's better.
Yeah. Yeah, well said. One thing, just in my curiosity about the process that you kind of work within in terms of other founders that can learn from it, being that your technology is disrupting a particular space, and it's probably more, it's like you have a testing phase and then you have this long sales cycle, and you really can see the completion of your work probably, with enough time kind of out. How do you as a founder think about or tackle that partnership initially? And how do you make sure that you have a successful outcome, being that you have to focus so much attention onto how the process is going, where a lot of founders have more transactional sales, faster sales cycles, a lot more velocity, but it seems like your relationships are a little bit more intimate. How have you not only maintained those, but made sure that you do well by your customers and have success in a certain project? What are some things that you've learned from, and what are some things that help you be successful?
I think that's a matter of balancing the scale of
Mm.
operation you can do, and basically making sure you have a healthy pipeline throughout the year. It's true that, as you said, the relationship can take time, but you can have a lot of successes and milestones throughout the
Yeah.
relationship. So making sure to have successes and not just wait to the end. It can be smaller project, POCs, different, even getting a good meeting with the client, but
Sure.
it's need to have some kind of evolution throughout the process, and not just waiting for that silver bullet at the end.
Yeah. Yeah. That's well said. I think it's underestimated the ability to work on smaller projects and smaller outcomes, even for a lot of different companies when they're building these relationships to even active proof of concepts or even do a proof of concept yourself. And what that means, those little wins in that sales cycle. That's really strong advice there. And that last little bit is I always like to ask because I love how founders extract knowledge out of anything that they ingest. What are maybe some books or people that have influenced you the most, whether it was early in your career or now?
Specific people that influenced me.
Yep.
I don't think I have one name that come to mind. I do look at some of the people. Most of them are partners or clients, and I can't name them, but that taught me a lot about the market and how it works,
Yeah.
and got me into the business side of things. And I think it's taught me a lot about how the real world, let's say, and not
Sure.
just the startups, high tech world works, and how to navigate there. And there's a lot of very smart people you can interact with and learn a lot from, especially. And I think that's the biggest, maybe the biggest move I have to
Yeah.
get good relationships as as a foreign in the States,
Yeah.
is that I really connect with them and just sit with them, have a coffee or a nice video chat.
Yeah.
But if you're really trying to understand their problem and their industry and not just selling them what they need,
Yeah.
I know it's been said a lot, but I value the relationship and I never know what each connection will bring me.
Yeah.
And some connection brought me a lot without even any initial intent of like selling to that person or selling to that company. But from building a relationship with him, I was able to move on.
Yeah. It's amazing to hear. I've had the way that your people, kind of the mentors and other individuals around, even some customers will teach you so much and help connect you to kind of the next thread. And it's almost like this ball of yarn at some point. There's so much that encompasses this experience that I think a lot of people maybe not value as much, but when they do, can see their success from a healthy network of individuals around them. Last little bit is I'd like to make sure that we didn't leave anything on the table. So Yogev, is there any question that I didn't ask you that I should have, or anything that you would have liked to chat about? Anything that we left that you wanted to mention to the audience before we leave?
Not about the company, but I do want to emphasize anyone who want to start a company or solving something need to, for himself, making sure it's something real. It doesn't have to be something big. You just need to solve a real problem to a real person. Can be in any market, and it's neat for him to be able to explain to himself the differentiator he have from anyone else, what he brings to the table as a company and to the world, what added value he brings with it.
Amazing. Yeah. Yeah. Yogev, it's been such a pleasure chatting with you. Not only learn about your early experience and kind of what that taught you and how you started Exodigo, but how you focus on customer problems, the relationship you have with your clients and kind of that whole process there, but also the technology and how much insight you can gather based on the sensors that you're building and how much positive outcomes that can have. And we as consumer or not as consumers of your product, but as individuals and in society can maybe even see those outcomes start to come out in our day lives, which is faster projects being completed and less kind of impact on our lives, but also maybe even better sustainability outcomes. So it's amazing to see what your technology can do. And last little bit, where can we support you? Give us your LinkedIn, your websites. Where can we support you as a founder and also Exodigo and what you're working on?
Yeah, you can visit our website, exodigo.com. You can see everything there. You can even check out job page, and you can also follow me on. I try to be active there, mainly on also helping young entrepreneurs and product management insight that can help you get better values and better traction in your business, like connecting your technology with your business side.
Amazing. Yogev, it's been such a pleasure chatting with you. I hope you enjoyed yourself on the show. And thank you so much for being on Behind Company Lines today.
Thank you for having me, Julian.